Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, channel that brings you your team every day. Guys, there are multiple departures announced by Rangers today. A number of players have left the club. Yes, that's right. It was just tweeted out about half an hour ago that the following players have left the club. This is what Rangers put out there, X'd out there, tweeted out. Who knows what it's called these days? We can confirm Yiannis Hagi, Leon Balogun, Tom Lawrence will depart the club on expiry of their contracts. Loan players Vaslav Cherny, Neresheo Casanwejo, Rafael Fernandez will return to their parent clubs. Look, I think we brought you a story earlier about Leon Balogun departing the club. We knew that one was going to happen. We knew that Leon was going to leave. That was obviously talked about earlier when Leon talked about with great sadness that he was departing the club, that it was the end of an era for him. I think I made my feelings clear on Big Leon. The club did him dirty to some degree, but I think that it was the right time for the decision. I get the whole, that he's a good player. He is a good player. I just think the injuries have caught up with him. So look, I think that one you can kind of say fair enough. It was time for him to go. Tom Lawrence, we kind of knew he was going. That was another one that was going to depart. Look, Tom Lawrence is one of those players who, when he arrived at the club, he did it exceptionally well. There was times when he played very well. There was times when he came up with, vital goals, vital assists. I think with Tom Lawrence, the big issue around Tom is that his injuries caught up with him. That's the big, massive one. The fact that he was out an awful lot. He seemed to sustain an injury, come back from the injury, play a couple of games, and then get injured again. This was the big one with Tom. So I think, that one is another one where, a bit like Kamaru, a bit like Ryan Jack, a player who missed a lot of time, ate up a lot of wages, is departing the club. I think he was on about 22, 23 grand a week. So that's obviously going to free some money up. And, this is another one that's gone. Now, Yiannis Hagi leaving, I think it is a massive, massive error by the club. Yiannis Hagi, for me, is one of the best midfielders in Scotland, one of the best midfielders around at this moment in time. Yiannis gets a lot of unnecessary hate from a lot of supporters, I think. You put out stuff in favour of Yiannis and praising Yiannis, and he gets a lot of criticism. He does get an awful lot of criticism. I think if you go back to the start of the season when he was kind of not in favour, when he was not being used, when he was made to train with the reserves or the under-21s, whatever you want to term it as, Yiannis carried himself perfectly during that. He didn't sulk, he didn't kick off, he didn't refuse to train, he didn't moan. He went there, he trained with the under-21s, he played in the games with them, and eventually earned his way back into the first team. And when he came back in, he was excellent, absolutely excellent. I think at times, when Yiannis was back in the side this season, we actually looked like a proper side again. He controlled the midfield. His passing was great. He could find a killer pass. He scored a goal or two. He had an assist or two. He looked a top player. I think Yiannis' time at Rangers, I think obviously he was our assist king during 55. The Braga game, which was the Yiannis Hagi game, all great memories of Yiannis' time at the club. This one to me is a huge mistake, letting Yiannis go. I think he is a top player. I think he'll obviously go off to play somewhere else, Germany or Italy or somewhere like that. Personally, not very happy with that one. Personally, quite angry that Yiannis has been allowed to leave the club. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that when the contracts were under negotiation, I think there was contracts offered to Yiannis. He was asked to take a substantial pay cut. Now, I don't think this is a bit daft for a player who, was probably one of the best players at the European Championship, the recent European Championships. He's one of the better players in our squad. And you sit there and you see some of the other players who are earning £27,000 a week, naming no names, who couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, and £35,000 a week, and lets the club down on a regular basis in recent years. You see those two earning massive amounts of money, and you're being asked to take a pay cut. I think that kind of smarts a little bit. So it's a little bit, I think. For me, it's not a wonder Yiannis Hagi, refused to take a pay cut. I wouldn't take a pay cut in that estimation. If I see someone earning £27,000 a week who only scores 18 goals in the Scottish Premier League, I mean that's the thing. I think the top scorer in the English National League got 31. There's some better teams in the English National League than there are in the Scottish Premier League. I think Yiannis Hagi for me is a big loss. Now, I think the biggest thing for me as well, if you look at the players that have left, Tom Lawrence, Yiannis Hagi, Leon Balogun, I think with the exception of Leon Balogun, you're looking again at money heading out the door. Again, bad management. Yiannis Hagi, somewhere between 4 to 6 million could have been easily got. Tom Lawrence, 2 to 3 million. Looking again at, yes, that in modern terms, if you look at what's been spent down south at the moment in the Premier League, that is small amounts of money. It's beans to those clubs. But to a club like Rangers at the moment, where we are at the moment, if we could have brought in 6 to 9 to 10 million pounds for players, that's useful money for the summer. That's useful money for us to go and buy players. So again, it's a bit of bad management there. But very sad. I think that Yiannis is going. I really, really liked Yiannis. And in terms of the loan players, we knew that once their loans came to an end, they would return to their parent clubs. I don't think if anyone gets kind of panicky and kind of, oh my God, Tierney's gone, he's never going to come back. And Cass as well. And, I think that was always going to happen. The moment their contracts came to an end, there was nothing in place in terms of transfer. There was no options to buy there. There was no obligations to buy like there is with Cortez. That's another debate. So there was never going to be a situation where it sort of transferred straight from a loan to a permanent. I think Václav Černý has had an excellent season. He's been absolutely fantastic this season. He's arguably been our best attacking player this season, chipping in with goals from the wing and assists. He's the one player that kind of gets bums off seats, doesn't he? When he runs at people, he causes trouble. He's a top player. He had that time, that last game at Ibrox where he kind of bid farewell, I think. I don't think we'll see Černý again. I think he'll go off to play somewhere else, whether it be down south or somewhere else in Europe. I just can't see the club paying 8, 9, 10 million pounds that Wolfsburg are going to want for him, which again is a massive loss because he is a top player. Cass and Joe, I could actually see Cass returning to the club. He certainly never let the club down. He played very well. When he was fit, he was probably one of our best right backs, one of our best centre halves as well. He's a quality defender. So for me, Big Cass is someone that will be missed. As for Rafael Fernandez, the guy never played. I think he played a couple of games maybe, but it was a weird one, that one. It was kind of the only January transfer that we did, and then nothing happened with him. He didn't play, and he never kind of got a look in. And it's weird, isn't it? It really is weird with him that he was kind of brought in. Maybe he was a Clermont player, I don't know, but never really got a look in it and never really played. So, bit of a strange one, that one. I don't think that's a player we'll see again anytime soon. Like I said, I think out of all those loan players that they're talking about, Černý, Cass and Fernandez, I think Big Cass, Big Nan is probably the biggest one that's probably on the likelihood to come back. But look, whatever the case, I just want to take this opportunity to wish, and I wish I wasn't saying this, but, I wish Yiannis all the very best. He's going to be a huge loss. His dad isn't going to be a massive loss, but he is going to be a huge loss. Yiannis for me is a really sad one. A Big Leon, another really sad one for me to see him go. Wish him all the best. Wish Tom Lawrence all the best. And as times I slagged off and criticised Tom Lawrence, justifiably so in a lot of games, I think he didn't play. He wasn't so great this season, but I think Tom would have been better had he not had all those injuries, I think is the most honest reflection on this. But, that's like I said, that is the situation. They've all gone now. Yiannis has gone, Leon's gone, Tom Lawrence has gone, and the 3 loans have gone back to their parent club. So interesting times ahead now with those 6 departing. It's hopefully we'll see some of the dead wood sold off. Obviously there's players who are on loan still that, there's got to be their futures have got to be decided. Robbie Fraser, Cole McKinnon, Jose Cifuentes, Simon Davis, Ben Davis, not Simon Davis, Ben Davis, Kieran Dowell, etc. Players who, are currently on the squad that we probably will want to see the back of. The likes of James Tavernier, the likes of Cyril Dessers hopefully will be sold as well this summer. So, for me, it is kind of like the ending of an era, the turning of a page, hopefully. And, that's another one. Congratulations as well to Nico Raskin, who has been called up to the Belgium squad. That was announced this afternoon as well. Just rewards for him. I think he's been absolutely excellent. Best Belgian midfielder in Scotland. Yes, Celtic fans he is. Because guess what? Your £11 million pretty boy who you rate so highly isn't in the Belgium squad. Nico Raskin is in the Belgian squad, along with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Yuri Tielemans, Amadou Onana, Romelu Lukaku, Lois Openda, Leandro Trossard, player Wes Faes, players of that calibre. Your player is not in there. So it's quite clearly the Belgian manager clearly thinks Raskin is a better player than Engels. There you go, guys. There you go. Get your little thick Timmy heads around that one. But congratulations to Nico Raskin for his call-up. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. On the way out, please obviously like, comments, share and subscribe. And remember always, we are the people.